Your bike, your trusty steed, your pride and joy. Many of us absolutely love our bikes and ride them all year round. So surely we take good care of them. Well, you may think you do, but today I'm actually going to be sharing 5 ways in which you may actually be ruining your bike or at least accelerating the wear of its components. But before we get into that, make sure you've subscribed to GTN. You can do that just below this video. And whilst you're there, why not hit the bell icon so you'll be notified every time one of our videos goes up. That all-important cafe ride. You've pulled up for some delicious coffee and cake, but in the midst of all that cake excitement, you've forgotten about looking after your pride and joy. What am I talking about here? Well, there are loads of points on your bike that you could use to lean up against a wall, a railing, a fence, a chair, whatever it may be. But there are actually only a couple of points that you should use that will guarantee to preserve the look of your bike. The main and probably the best practice is using your rear tyre, and then if necessary your handlebars, preferably onto the bar tape, not onto the brake lever or the shifter, and then obviously not using your saddle. That is a common go-to. I've been there, I've leant my bike up against a brick wall and it's ripped the side of the saddle, or at least it can scratch it. And then it goes without saying, using your frame is an absolute no-no. It is not easy to fix a frame. Now, the cafe stop isn't the only time you need to be careful about placing your bike. Got a puncture or a mechanical? Well, the age-old bike upside down trick is not the best practice. That is the surefire way of potentially scratching your hoods, your shifters, or your saddle, or at least transferring the dirt and grime off the road straight onto your bib shorts or your hands. The best practice is actually, if you can't hand it to a mate, is lying your bike gently down on the non-drive side, preferably onto a soft surface such as some grass. And if you're using a TT bike, definitely don't turn that upside down. Many of us have learned the hard way on that one. Regardless of how or where you're placing your bike, just make sure it is secure, stable, and safe. Few things are worse than seeing, or at least hearing, a beautiful carbon bike clattering down onto the pavement. Well, now on to lube. Lube is very important, but how much should you be using and on what parts? Well, these are all very important cycling related questions. Chain lube is essential for minimizing the amount of moisture that we get into internal bushings and pins, and for reducing the amount of friction between moving parts. Now, broadly speaking, there are 2 types of chain lube. We've got wet lube and dry lube. Wet for wet conditions, dry for dry conditions. Now, using dry lube in wet conditions could result in the lubricant being quickly stripped from the chain and leaving the chain susceptible to rust, wear, and corrosion. Using wet in dry conditions can leave the chain almost acting like a magnet, picking up dust, sand, grit, whatever you may be riding through, and accelerating the wear of some of the components on your bike. Another common mistake we see people doing quite a lot is actually applying more lubricant to an already dirty and lubricated chain. Now, you might think the more lube the better, but actually, again, it just makes that chain a magnet. It's going to attract loads of dirt and grime off the road and absolutely destroy everything in its path, the cassette, the jockey wheels, etc. And again, just accelerating the wear of the components on your bike. So best practice, make sure you're degreasing your chain regularly, you're applying lube regularly to your chain, and most importantly, the correct lube. Now, training indoors is a staple for many triathletes out there, but how is this destroying or ruining your bike? Well, you know all that sweat that drips off you onto the bike? Well, that is pretty lethal stuff. Not only is it just pretty disgusting when you peel back your old bar tape and find all that old sweat, that smell is revolting. It's actually the salt in your sweat that can be so lethal, because if that gets into your bike, it can end up corroding, rusting some parts, particularly the bolts, which in turn will weaken those bolts and could potentially lead to them breaking, which is obviously pretty dangerous. So a way around this is to make sure that you lay a towel down over your bike when you do a turbo session, or some sort of sweat catcher. And although it may seem quite weird given that you are riding your bike indoors, keeping it fairly clean, make sure you are washing your bike down and cleaning it still on a regular basis. Now here at GTN, we love to be able to maintain our bikes regularly and from our own home. And some of our own mechanical videos may have inspired you to do the same. It's great for your wallet, but I would say just be cautious and wary, because using incorrect tools or correct tools incorrectly can end up being quite dangerous and quite costly. Now, if you are embarking on any mechanics, just make sure that you refer to manufacturer's instructions for the specific component you're working on or the tools that you're using, and obviously just making sure that you're confident in doing that task. There is absolutely no shame in dropping your bike into a local bike shop, or at least just seeking some advice from them. And trust me, there's nothing worse than rounding out a bolt, stripping the thread, or even cross-threading something. So if that is you, you're slightly unsure, just make sure that you do your research and drop it into a bike shop. Is your bike regularly dirty? Are you riding in the rain often? Perhaps you live near the beach and your bike and chain picks up sand quite regularly. Whatever the conditions, having a dirty bike is a surefire way to ruining your bike more quickly. Now, quite often problems are disguised under the dirt and grime on your bike. Components will start to function more poorly, and perhaps even they'll wear out more quickly. Now, what I suggest here is actually just washing your bike down quickly after every ride if you can. Just a quick rinse down, dry off, and re-lube that chain. And then obviously a more thorough clean on a fairly regular basis. That's going to keep that bike looking nice and beautiful, hopefully functioning well, and preventing any mechanical disasters, and most importantly, keeping those components running for far, far longer. Now, there are 5 ways in which you may inadvertently be ruining your bike. Let us know if any of these have surprised you, or if you think we've missed any off. Drop them down in the comments section below. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Make sure you give it a like, and don't forget to follow GTN on social media.